Isn't this just the most marvellous of days? I've been sitting reading and then doing a little bit of work, writing, listening to the bees and all the little pollinators. The west of Ireland is enjoying this absolutely stunning weather and it's going to be here for the next couple of weeks. So all these beautiful Rosa canina are out. Look at this. Absolutely gorgeous. You smell. Oh, they smell divine. Look at this. You just stand back a little bit so I can share this with you. Now, isn't that spectacular? Just so beautiful. And I've got some nasturtiums coming out there, the flowers. So I'm going to take a little walk up to the stone circle. I had Jack out for a walk this morning. Look at this, look. Look at all the beautiful little creatures. We went down to Kilronan Castle and we walked down alongside Loch Mila. And we met some lovely people. A young couple and their child. I think they were from Berlin in Germany. And we talked for a little while. But I just thought to myself, you know, I don't want to be out in the heat of the day because it's nice just to be able to sit and enjoy the heat of the day. And look at that view, isn't that beautiful? So I was thinking about the Tuatha Dé Danann because it's impossible not to continually see the mountain, the Slieve Éireann mountain, where they landed. And of course, as I wrote in my book, In Search of the Goddess Rising, the Tuatha Dé Danann were the people of the goddess Danu, the ever-living ones, who walked this ancient land before the sons of Mill, as the record says, landed. And there were people of magic and myths, and there were shape changers, and there were poets and healers and musicians. Now, that's very interesting because all those traits can be found in the people here in Ireland today. And it's been regarded time and time again that a lot of the people who are poets and healers and storytellers and musicians have no real formal education. So it's not a matter of education and privilege. It seems to be deep within both the psyche and the sort of genetic makeup of the people. So it's very interesting that the Tuatha Dé Danann were lauded for having those qualities, because those qualities are still very much here. And of course, legend has it that the Tuatha Dé Danann landed in misty clouds. Misty clouds, well, that's not unusual. Got lots of misty clouds here in Ireland, on the flat top of Slieve Éireann. And the establishments, they actually established themselves first in one area, Machrain, that's in South Leitrim. So South Leitrim is, South Leitrim sort of borders here, where I live here. And From that point then they just spread out across what was known as Era, the land of Era. And of course you had the triple goddess. It's very interesting because the Abrahamic religions took on the idea of the triple god. But long, long before the Abrahamic religions, thousands of years before, you had it established here in Ireland, the belief in the triple goddess. And so they still remain kind of fairly shadowy hosts. They were of the tribe Danu, and they had very specific, not deities and not even gods, but I suppose in contemporary terms we'd refer to them as gods. So there was Dagda. Now Dagda is known as the Dagda. Dagda, who was Lord of the Oak, and he had this great appetite apparently, and from the whole legend of Dagda comes the idea of the cauldron, and in fact the Dagda had a cauldron that was referred to as the cauldron of plenty. And then within the tribe of Danu you had Ogma, and Ogma means sunny face, and Ogma was the inventor or the creator of the Ogham script, and the Ogham script of course is one of the most ancient scripts to be found, and it's now you may be familiar with it. It's found on some ancient stones here in Ireland that primarily would have recorded the resting place of a tribal leader, and the Ogham script was done very much as a series of lines. And so the kind of legend, let me just cross this little bridge because it's a little bit dicey. The legend of the Tuatha Dé Danann just goes on and on. I mean, it's a very, very rich sort of epic tale. For example, there was Bridget. Of course, you're all familiar with Bridget, and Bridget, like a lot of the ancient goddesses, not so much the gods, but the goddesses were Christianized, and it was a way, I suppose, of reining the women into what was a patriarchal religion, and of course what remains a patriarchal religion. Look at this, look at these beautiful bees, and they're all around the comfrey. Of course the comfrey has fallen over, but the bees don't care about that. They don't mind. They're just eager to get into the flowers and collect the pollen. And of course there's all different kinds of bees. Look, there's a massive one. Of course, virtually all of these bees are wild bees. I sing their praises. Beautiful, beautiful creatures. So I'm just going to trip past, very gently, trip past the buzzing. Now, so you had Bridget, and of course Bridget, well, there's two stories about Bridget, and I'm talking about the goddess Bridget. First of all, some say that she was the daughter of the Dagda, and some say she was the mother of the Dagda. That's very interesting. But of course, obviously, there appears to have been a very close relationship. And it would have been interesting for her to have been the mother of the Dagda, because of course within within the Abrahamic religions there are no mothers of the gods or the god. You simply have, you know, the god, and so it's very interesting. And Bridget then, she was renowned for having very admired gifts, and the admired gifts would have been healing and smithcraft. That's interesting, isn't it? Smithcraft. Because of course we associate that with men. But then when you begin to peel off the layers of some of the stories, you realise that someone like Cuchulainn, who was the champion of all Ulster, he learned his warrior skills, his sword skills, from a woman in Scotland. And so it appears that women were very involved within smithing, which of course is metalwork. And she was also a woman of poetry and the goddess of fertility. Now that's always interesting, of course, the goddess of fertility, because again the association with power is very much the power of fertility. And Bridget's feast day, her festival, her special day, is February the 1st, which is Imach. And Imach in the Celtic calendar is the first day of spring. And Imach, of course, is one of the 4 great feast days of the Celtic world. So there's so many stories around this part of the world. And the reason why I'm talking about this is mainly because when I was talking with this young German guy and his partner and child, they were asking me about ancient places, because they'd been up to Kilronan Castle and they weren't too impressed, because of course I suppose you'd be expecting a very ancient castle. Well, there is a part of it which is very old, but most of it is built fairly recently. It's been rebuilt and renovated, so it has a little bit of a contemporary feel to it. So I was stood there for a long time and we were chatting, and I was telling them about the wonderful megalithic court tomb down in the woods by Lochmela. And so we were stood there chatting, and we were very interested in the history, because of course this little part of Ireland as well, you know, it's a little bit off the tourist trail. You wouldn't necessarily come through this area if you were just simply a tourist. You'd head straight into Sligo, or go to some of the more, you know, you might go into the town of Carrick, but you wouldn't necessarily come out this way. And of course this is where some of the most ancient history in all of Ireland is to be found. So one of the interesting aspects of the Tour de Danann is that they were renowned for being shape changers. Isn't that interesting? And the power to change shape, of course, was very much linked in with the Arthurian legends. So when you think of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, you had Merlin, who was very much a shape changer. So those powers were very much attributed to certain Celtic peoples. And these were people, at the end of the day, that Julius Caesar was actually quite in fear of. He didn't want to take them on. They were a fearless people. They were contemptuous of death. Not just didn't fear death, they were quite contemptuous of it. It was as though they knew a lot more than what was ever recorded. In fact, there's very little recorded. The only records that we have, per se, are those recorded by Christian monks. And some say that a lot of the Druids, in order to avoid persecution, sort of melded into the early Christian settlements. So it is a very interesting story. And I suppose meeting this young couple today has just reminded me of so many elements that most of the time I sense and I feel, but I don't actually think about. And when one starts to think about these elements and these sort of energies, it can become quite awesome, quite overpowering, you know? It's like last night I was out here and just looking up at the waxing moon, and it just seemed so natural. It just seemed like it had always been there. But when you step back and you look at something through new eyes, you know, pretend that you're just a visitor, pretend that you haven't seen this, it's awesome. Now I can just see Slieve and Erin over there, just through this beautiful afternoon heat haze. Look at that. Isn't that lovely? It's like looking at that piece of bog oak there with white stones on it. That bog oak is, I think the site where that was taken from, the bog oak in that particular area was measured at being 38,000 years old. 38,000 years. Of course that's preserved now almost forever. Bog oak is preserved within the bogs, you see, preserved in a very dense and wet acidic bog that pushes all the oxygen out and absolutely preserves whatever is in it. And here I am surrounded by such incredible things. So I came home then and I was just reading and thinking. And I thought to myself, what I do is, because of course I brought some of my own books out, and as I've been thinking a lot about all the stories, and the whole idea of shape-shifting now does sort of entrance me, because I have come across people that I've met, and especially here in Ireland, over the years, I mean over the decades. Like, I think it's in the book A Cottage and 3 Acres, I refer, or it may have been in Search of the Goddess Rising, I refer to a woman I met down in Clare on the beach, and how she was there and then she wasn't there. And I just got this very deep feeling in my gut that I was only seeing what I wanted to see. So the whole idea of shape-shifting makes sense to me. Because it's very possible, you see, to... we know that we can almost become something else or become someone else. I mean, that's the whole notion of acting, of being a great actor, to be able to convince people that you are someone that you're not. So in many ways, shape-shifting can be understood within that, contemporary sphere of acting. And then you take it one step further. You take it into, quantum physics. And you begin to see how reality is perceived. So, anyway, something to announce, something just to tell you about. From today, which is, what date is it now? It's the 23rd. I can't think what date it is. But anyway, for the next 2 weeks only, so that takes us up to the end of the first week in July, and it's up on the website, and I'm going to put a link underneath this video. The book A Cottage and 3 Acres has been reduced from $27.50, including postage and packing, to $22.50, including postage and packing. And postage has just gone up. So instead of €5.50, it's now €6 to post this book. But that's to anywhere in the world. But it's only for the next 2 weeks. So if you'd like to get a copy at that special price, just click on the link underneath this video, or you can go to bealtainecottage.com. The menu is at the very top of the page, and just click on that, and that takes you straight in. So I have another, what is it now? You see, today's Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I finish my 100-day juice fast on Tuesday. My intention is then to open a journal on the website, which will record my journey going forward. And my journey going forward is very much about transitioning to a whole food, plant-based lifestyle. I'm expecting to continue to lose weight, because in fact I will have another, I haven't worked it out exactly, but it's about 20 pounds, probably a wee bit less now, probably about 18 or 19 pounds to lose in order to reach the very outer limits of a healthy BMI. So thank you for all those people who say, oh, but Colette, you look very slim as it is. trust me, I feel those extra 20 odd pounds. And this is about health. It's fabulous that I have gained a little bit in terms of, you know, my figure, etc. But it's very much about health. So I'm going to be posting a link. Now, not on this video because I haven't opened the journal yet, but as soon as I open the journal on Tuesday, I will post a link underneath videos. So you can go on to the journal, you can see photographs of what I was at the very beginning on the 19th of March, what I am now, and going forward. And also reflections on, you know, what this is all about, how I've benefited from it, recipes, general health, etc. So those of you who have either weight to lose or health to regain, or in some cases both, like me, then you will find this interesting, I'm quite sure. And I'm only going to write as I experience things. So there won't be any gobbledygook nonsense. And I'm not someone who believes in being prescriptive. I'm not going to say, this is what you do, and this is exactly what you must do in order to get whatever, because I just find that a lot of nonsense, I really do. We are all individuals and we all have to find the best way forward for ourselves. But anyway, I'm looking forward to doing that journal, and of course there's lots more on the website. And that's about it. So on this absolutely stunningly beautiful, gorgeous, wonderful, energizing, delightful early evening here at Bealtaine Cottage, blessings to you all, and don't forget, click on the link underneath this video for the special offer on a cottage and 3 acres. Blessings to you all.